Assalamu alaikum everybody. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. All praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of the worlds, and may all the peace and blessings be on the family of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I would like to welcome you all to Youth Perspectives today. And before we start off, I would like to give my condolences to the family of Savita Schiff, who was a victim in the Santa Fe, Texas high school shooting. And it was really sad to hear this news. Truly, it was a heartbreaking news for the community. And her namaz-e-janaza actually took place today in a mosque in Texas. So I'd just like to give my condolences for her, and I hope you all can read a Surah Fatiha for her, and just for pray for patience for her family. So today we have a guest speaker. Her name is Azra Mirza, and she is a very active member of the community. She volunteers a lot. She's very dedicated. She's currently a sophomore in college, and she's also really good at speech and debate. I know she's made it to the national level. So Azra, would you like to kind of introduce yourself?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Azra Mirza. Rabab already told you. And I'm just thankful that I was given this opportunity to present my views on this segment with Rabab.
Yeah, okay. So now to begin, the purpose of these programs, Youth Perspectives, is kind of to tell the youth and inform the youth about different things about Ramadan and kind of, connect with the youth. So to start off, I'd like to comment on, how beautiful Ramadan essentially is. We have this really nice structure. We have Sahri in the morning, we wake up early in the morning, we pray to Allah, we do Fajr, then, we fast, we refrain ourselves from food, and then, we have iftar. So just to kind of start us off, Azra, do you want to tell us what do you eat for Sahri?
For Sahri, well, firstly, getting up for Sahri is a struggle. I really have to tell myself that if I don't eat Sahri, then I'm going to really struggle the entire day. So once I get up, I usually eat something very light because I've learned that eating heavy things is really detrimental to me during the day. So something light, just probably like cereal or just waffles or noodles, something light, and then a lot of water, obviously.
Oh, I completely agree. A lot of water. You need that to keep yourself hydrated during the day. I think that's great, to eat something light because, eating too much again, just for the sake of your health, that's good. Something I'd like to add on to that is, how to start off your day in the holy month of Ramadan. I would suggest drinking lassi, which is actually a yogurt smoothie. And the reason I recommend this is because, it prevents you from becoming thirsty. So I think that's a great way to kind of start the morning. And, I feel like that's a great way to start the morning. So now our first question today is, how can we make the most of our Ramadan? So do you have anything to say about that, Azra?
How we can make the most of our Ramadan? Yes, honestly, Ramadan is such an important time because this is the only opportunity we're given during the entire year where Allah blesses us with literally first smiling, first sleeping, we get blessed. So honestly, whatever we do, we're getting blessings for it. But to maximize the blessings that we're getting this month, obviously, engage in things like reading Quran and doing namaz-e-shab and just going to the masjid if you're able to. And even if you're not, just preparing food for the fasting people, for giving them a date or giving them water to break their fast. That really, really helps. And just not lying, not cheating, and always trying your best to do good deeds and refraining from sins will just maximize your benefits. Because if you have a pure heart and if you have pure intentions, then Allah will take that obviously into consideration and give you blessings for everything you do, even if it's just sleeping or if smiling at someone or holding the door open for them. Any small act of kindness will have tenfold blessings this month. So that's the beauty of Ramadan.
I completely agree with you, Azra. Yes, we need to, in this holy month, this is our one time in the year where we can maximize the benefits out of whatever we do. So like Azra said, take advantage of everything, help others out, open a door for someone, read Quran. And like the way I'd like to phrase this is like you use your body parts like to maximize the benefits you can get, like to maximize the sawab. So for example, besides just thinking of Ramadan as like just avoiding food. That's what people, in the youth tend to think, that, oh, Ramadan's coming, we're not going to get to eat for, 16 hours. But instead of thinking about it in this way, like Azra was saying, like, use your different body parts, like use your feet, to walk to the masjid, use your mouth to read Quran. So just kind of take advantages of what you can do and get all the sawab that you can. So that's what I would like to say here. So continuing on, what are the benefits of fasting? What do you think about that?
Okay, well, this really depends on what you're asking, because we have spiritual and mental benefits, and then there's physical benefits. So I think we can cover the physical benefits, because I find that really interesting, because a lot of the time we think, Ramadan is a time where we deprive our body from food and water just for the sake of, achieving nearness to Allah, which is true, fasting has so many spiritual benefits, but I believe that people don't talk enough about the physical and the health benefits of fasting. And till today, recently a lot of science studies have found that fasting has so many health benefits. For example, for cancer studies, a lot of cancer studies have been done, and the researchers found out that people who fast for at least 2 days a week over the course of a few months can actually prevent the chances of them having cancer. And I found that really, really interesting. You could literally just go on the internet and search it up. So many studies have backed this notion that fasting has proven to prevent cancer. On top of that, another study proved that if you fast for just 3 days, usually on the third day of fasting, your old white blood cells, they die. And we know, white blood cells are an integral part of our immune system. They help fight off things that are detrimental to our body. They fight off things like bacteria, germs, and things that cause diseases. So on the third day of fasting, some studies suggest that the white blood cells that are old and weak and can't perform their duties correctly, they die off. And then when we eat in the night, we eat dinner, the new blood cells become activated, the new white blood cells. And since they are new and healthier, they can provide our body with better defense mechanisms than the old blood cells. So I found that really interesting. And things like that can really help ward off chronic pains, chronic illnesses and diseases in the long run. Also, one more thing, fasting helps metabolism in the long run, and it syncs all of our biological rhythms. So every single system in our body kind of syncs together when we're fasting. And it helps us lose weight. And a lot of people struggle with the whole weight thing in Ramadan because they eat a lot during iftar. But if we eat correctly for dinner, we eat the correct amount of food and the correct types of food for dinner, then we can actually help lose weight in the long run.
Yes,
Yeah.
I completely agree with what Azra is saying. Look at all of these health benefits you're getting from simply fasting. So besides the spiritual benefits, all of these physical benefits make fasting like such a great opportunity for us to avail, like what she was saying about replenishing our white blood cells, getting the new white blood cells. This is really, something that we should look at and think about these things when we're fasting, that it's good for our body. And coming back to the thing that she mentioned about helping us to lose weight, we should really, it kind of gives us like self-control. Ramadan allows us to kind of self-control ourselves because, we're kind of restricted from eating, and, choosing the right foods to eat is really very, very key to leading a healthy life and, leading a good Ramadan. And continuing to our physical benefits, our scientific benefits, did you know that health trainers these days, they actually recommend that you fast a couple of times every month to improve your health? And what they do is something that's really similar to what we do in Ramadan, that for it's called the 16-9 routine. For 16 hours, you don't eat anything, and then for 9 hours you can eat in that time slot. So I feel like, things that health trainers are bringing up now, like we've been doing this for thousands of years, ever since the time of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We've been implementing this in our Ramadan and doing this exact same thing. So we have to realize what health benefits that we're getting from Ramadan and how it can help us. And another physical benefit that I'd like to mention is that fasting actually helps to detoxify the body. So, while you're fasting, your body's slowly detoxifying all those bad things and kind of taking those out. So, moving on, So how is Ramadan an opportunity to improve ourselves? What do you think, Azra?
Well, the spirit of Ramadan is just, it's beautiful, really, because I really came to this conclusion a few days ago. I realized that throughout the year, we get so caught up in our everyday lives, the hassle of 21st century life, especially in America, that even when we become so synced with the society around us that we often forget, where our values stand.
Mm-hmm.
We get so focused on school, on social status, on friends, on job, on money, that we kind of forget, we lose sight of where we're supposed to be. So Ramadan is a great time to bring our focus back to the values that Allah taught us to have. And I realized that in other parts of the year, when we always think that, I think I'm kind of, derailing off of, being a great Muslim, I think I should come back, and then you try to read more Quran and pray on Fazilat time, it becomes kind of hard to do that because no one else around you is doing it in other parts of the year. It's just your own self trying to improve, and it's hard when you don't receive feedback from other people, when other people aren't doing the same thing you're doing in your journey to become a better spiritual Muslim. But in Ramadan, it's beautiful because every single person is together trying to achieve that goal, to seek nearness to Allah. So it's not only you trying to, do good deeds, trying not to cheat, trying not to lie. It's everyone else around you trying to do the same thing. And sometimes I see, this has happened several times, for example, when someone is angry and they're going to act on their anger, another person sees that and says, oh, please don't ruin your fast over this, just let it go. And then the person who was angry actually, agrees and then lets it go. So it's great because we're trying to improve ourselves, other people are trying to improve themselves, and they're helping us improve our own selves in the process. So it's just this constant cycle and atmosphere of positivity, of spirituality that everyone gets to share. So it's really, really wonderful. That's what I love about this month.
Oh, that was beautiful the way that you put that, Azra, that how we ourselves are striving to be good Muslims and the people around us are also trying to do that. So it kind of allows all of us to kind of go in the right path together and build our values. And I really feel like that's something really beautiful in Ramadan. And continuing off of that, going back to the values that we gain from Ramadan, like if you just sit down and you think of Ramadan as kind of like a sacrifice that you're making to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I would like to give a hadith of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he would say that he said that he liked fasting, especially in hot days. And back in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, there was no AC. Like nowadays, you can chill inside, sit in the AC, do whatever, and you're just, all you have to do is not eat anything. So it's significantly easier for us to fast now. But if you look back in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, there was no AC. It would be very, very hot outside, and then people would fast. And Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying that, I like to fast in the hot days. Now, if we stop and if we think about this, like, this is what he's trying to tell us, is that it's kind of like you think of like a sacrifice. And if you kind of think of it like this, like you're thinking like, I'm going an extra mile to do something for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I really think this is a beautiful thing, that we should really gain these values and don't just think of Ramadan as a time that, it's that time of month again where, I have to avoid food. It's really a time where you're going forward and you're taking forward the duty, the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So moving on along, let's discuss the importance of Ramadan in the lives of 21st century youth. Would you like to say anything about that?
Yes. Now more than ever, Ramadan is really important because the times have changed. I mean, I've not really lived, I'm only 19 years old, but before this, I'm sure society was so different. There was no technology, there was no hassle to achieve, these high goals. Living in America, we kind of become attached to the materialistic world, especially in this time, because, the mass media coverage gives us an idea or gives us the false notion that we have to be a certain way or achieve a certain goal in order to be considered successful in this society. So we see other people achieve these positions, have this much money, have these many friends, look a certain way, dress a certain way, have a certain house, and we feel pressure to be like that as well. So then we kind of lose focus of our religion, and we focus more on this these other false goals that we want to reach. And that's really, really hard, because if we continue this, every single day for the entire year, it gets so normalized. We desensitize ourselves to things that otherwise would be really, really detrimental to our own souls, because everyone else in America is doing it, especially in this day and age. So in Ramadan, it is the month that we constantly get exposed to positivity. We constantly get reminded of who we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do as Muslims in America in the 21st century. People remind us that we're supposed to focus our energy on being better Muslims, on serving other people, on helping them, on focusing our energy on becoming the best version of ourselves, on, giving to the poor. That's one big reason why we fast, to become knowledgeable on what the other people are going through, to have sympathy towards them. So Ramadan is a really important time in this year, because it's the one opportunity we get in these 365 days where we can really just refocus our lives and kind of disconnect ourselves from the everyday hassle of job, school, college, friends, social life, money, everything, and we just refocus ourselves on just the essence of our life, the purpose of our existence in this world, which is to serve Allah and become a great Muslims, the people we were meant to be.
I completely agree with what Azra just said, that Ramadan is like our time that kind of we focus ourselves on our religion, and we kind of forget about like our surroundings, like let's say like the worldly things around us. It kind of gives focus, allows us to focus on our religion and kind of pursue it and go forward in that. And going back to the question that I said, like discussing the importance of it in our youth, like as youth, like we're the future, we have to bring forth the message of Allah, and we have to make sure that Islam is spread throughout the future, So our duty as youth is to kind of just put our heart into Ramadan, and like I mentioned before, through our fasting, not only avoid food, we want to avoid doing all bad things, and kind of to show the world as Muslims who we are, because currently, as you know, there's not a very positive view about Muslims, and to try to improve that, Ramadan also gives us that opportunity to engage in activities like Azra mentioned before, like giving to the poor and just doing whatever we can to maximize our benefits out of Ramadan. And so it's a really good opportunity to improve ourselves and looking at who we are now and kind of propagate the mission of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the next question is, what should we try to avoid doing in Ramadan?
Try to avoid doing. Okay, these are the two hardest things to avoid doing, which I think everyone does, including myself. We're all victim to this. Oversleeping and overeating. These are two things that, people say, don't lie, don't cheat. That's a given. We do all these things. We spiritually cleanse ourselves by not lying, not cheating, fasting from not only food, but from other sins. But I think the biggest issue is to refrain from overeating, because we often feel that we deprive our bodies from food and drink the entire day. So obviously we're entitled to a meal that we enjoy, right? So we eat lots of fried foods, oily foods, fatty foods. We usually neglect the healthy foods that we're supposed to eat. And that's very dangerous for our bodies, because if we deprive our bodies of food and drink for 16 or 11 to like 15 hours depending where you live, sometimes even 20 hours depending on the country you're from, it's so dangerous, because after not eating for such a long time, if all we give our bodies is this junk food, it could have serious health detrimental effects in the long run, especially if we continue doing this for 30 days straight. So fasting is meant to be something that can actually help ourselves physically. We mentioned that fasting has so many health benefits, but if we do not responsibly have a healthy iftar, a healthy dinner, then we're really going to not see these healthy benefits, and we're just going to see detrimental effects in our health in the long run. And also oversleeping is a big thing, because we feel like a lot of the times, since the night is the only time we can eat, we usually stay up, and a lot of times people actually stay up till sahri. They say, okay, I finished my iftar, then I had my dinner, and let me just have a bunch of midnight snacks until sahri, then pray fajr and go to sleep. And that's very, that's not a good practice to have, because Allah created the night for us to rest. And it's recommended to stay awake until the beginning of fajr, to wake up early during fajr, and then stay up, pray namaz, and then stay awake till the sun ends its process in the sun starts to rise in the sky. So that's what Islam recommends, to stay awake until the sun rises, and we shouldn't be sleeping during the morning. So I think that's really important, to really not oversleep and don't overeat, because that's a trap that all of us are inclined to fall into this month, because everyone does it, so it's easy for us to fall in it as well. So really to try to kind of combat the urge to do those things is really important.
Yeah, I would agree again with what Azra is saying, that these are two major problems of ours is, we overeat and we oversleep. And I'm a victim of both of these things because, after a long day of not eating anything, you have this urge to, I'm going to eat pizza, I'm going to eat burgers, and you want to get your hands on all of that junk food, because you deprived of yourself of it all day. But if you look at it as a whole, I mean, like if you're gonna starve the whole day and then give your body food, and that food is not good food, then that's not gonna be good for your body. And in the long run, instead of having a healthy body, you're gonna end up not having those health benefits. So also about overeating, we should try our best to, replace maybe the stuff like pizza and burgers. Perhaps you can replace it with something like a salad, or fruits or vegetables, some things that will actually help to boost the health of our body. And so a tip that I would suggest is, kind of look at the calories of what you eat, because that's very important. So then you kind of control what you eat, and kind of to keep track of the amount of calories that you're eating every day, just to avoid overeating, and hopefully instead of gaining weight, you can lose some weight, because that's kind of like a goal of all of us these days, to kind of lose weight. And also the other issue, oversleeping. I'm also a victim of this, what typically used to go on like a few years ago. What we would do is me and my brothers would stay up all night until Sahri time, and we would sleep all day, because if you're gonna stay up all night, then you end up oversleeping in the day, and that's also not very good for your health. And in Ramadan, that's really not what we should be doing. Instead of sleeping during the day, like we mentioned before, you should read Quran and kind of maximize your benefits out of everything. So we want to try to get all our sleep and replace our unhealthy options with more healthier ones. Also, I would like to go back to the point where about the value of sacrifice in Ramadan, how I mentioned about the hadith of Imam Ali, how he said that he liked to fast particularly on hot days. And I would like to give a hadith of Bibi Maryam, Salamu alayha. She said that she wished that if she could come back to life, she would fast in the long summer days, and she would pray in the cold nights. And this is actually, she said this after she passed away in one of Prophet Isa alayhi salam's dreams. And so if we look at what she's saying, we see the importance of, trying to think of fasting as kind of like a sacrifice to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because during the normal days of the year, we're always thinking, how can we become better Muslims? Like, where can I make my difference? Where can I make that change? And how can I get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala besides my namazes and everything else that I do? So this is like a really important way, is to think of fasting as like an opportunity for us to improve ourselves continuously over time. And so my next question would be that what are some other ways that we can, like Azra, you mentioned before, what are some mental benefits of fasting besides the physical ones?
There are quite a few mental benefits. One is that we achieve a really strong willpower after this month, because when we fast, we have, there are certain rules to fasting that are given. You can't eat, you can't drink. Or if you get cut and you bleed, your fast is broken. If you throw up, your fast is broken. But there are also other things that we should refrain from doing, because it might affect the benefits of fasting, or it might affect our fast from being accepted, such as lying, cheating, putting others down, using derogatory terms and language towards other people, disrespecting your parents, or just disrespecting anyone in general. And I think just refraining from doing these things requires so much willpower. For example, I know in America, a lot of people, unfortunately, they listen to music throughout the year. And I know in Ramadan, these people, they decide that I'm going to stop doing this for 30 days straight. And even though it might be hard for them, because they're in the habit of doing something like that, and their body's used to, hearing music every day, they force their bodies to not listen to it for 30 days, and after a while, after Ramadan, it becomes a habit. If you don't lie for 30 days, if you don't cheat for 30 days, if you control your anger for 30 days, which is so hard to do, if you control your anger for 30 days, if you speak kind words for 30 days, if you really show that you cannot eat and drink for the entire day and still function as a human being and still do your everyday tasks, if you can do all of that for 30 days, then all of these things will become habits. And then you will become so used to refraining from sins, you will become so used to doing these good deeds that even after Eid al-Fitr, you can continue being like a better version of yourself. So I think that's like a really important thing, that you gain a willpower during Ramadan, which you could not have gained throughout any other time in the year.
Yeah, I agree again with Azra that, Ramadan allows us to gain that willpower, which is very important, like coming back to a point that I mentioned before in self-control and kind of to help us to get out of our bad habits, like backbiting, lying. I'm sure most of us don't do these things, but sometimes they happen, and just to kind of get into the habit of avoiding it, if you don't do it for 30 days, we can rub off our bad habits and we can implement some good ones. So I found that point really good, that Ramadan develops our willpower and it gives us self-control over things we do, and for the rest of the year, you're all set, you're a better person. So now I would like to talk a little bit about the victim we mentioned before. Her name is Savita Schiff, and as I mentioned, she was a victim in the Santa Fe high school shooting, which devastated us all. And just knowing that these kind of things are happening in the community really, brings sadness to our hearts. And so I would like to kind of talk about gun violence a little bit. And Azra, do you have an opinion about gun violence?
Yes, it's a very, very really sad situation, because after what happened in Santa Fe, I heard that the Muslim Pakistani girl who passed away, she was a foreign exchange student. So her parents were actually not even in the country. They were on the other side of the world in Pakistan. And after they broke their iftar, they opened the TV to check the news, and they saw the news that the shooting happened in Santa Fe. And they recognized the school as the school that their daughter was attending. So obviously any parent would become so concerned to see that they sent their daughter half the world away, and coincidentally that very school was the one that experienced a school shooting. So they actually called her several times. They tried to call her friends, they tried to call people to contact her, to get into contact with her, but they could not. And then they found out, I don't know how they found out, but somehow someone probably called them, or they saw her face on the news, that she was one of the victims of the school shooting. And it's so heartbreaking to know that your daughter is on the other side of the world, and she wasn't with her family when she went through something like that, when she had to leave this world, depart this world. And even her funeral was in America, and I'm not sure if her family was able to be with her. And I read a statistic that on average in America, every single day around 96 people die on average from gun violence related issues. And that's just really shocking to know that that many people are victim to gun violence. And I feel like that's an issue that needs to be addressed, because so many innocent people die, and there have been so many school shootings. So I just really send my condolences to the families that have to go through the torture of having their loved ones be victim to gun violence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with Azra's point that it's really sad that she had to go through this. Like, imagine what her parents would have thought. Like, you send your child over to America, to go pursue her education, and that's the last thing you would ever expect, for her to be a victim in one of these school shootings. And I really find it very devastating and very sad. And it's just like, I feel like we need to change what's going on in our community. We have to try. And did you know that this shooting was done by a student himself? And so it's not even an outsider that's doing this. It's like the children themselves. So we kind of have to influence the mindset of these children, and we really have to really look to this and really ponder upon this. So we should, and I know even at my school they had something that just happened. It's called March for Our Lives, and it was just kind of to raise awareness about gun violence. And so it was really important, and we kind of all gathered in the auditorium and raised our voices against gun violence. And I really feel like we should try to influence our society to have stricter gun laws, perhaps. Maybe we really, if these things are happening so much in schools, maybe implement a change in the schools, maybe have metal detectors or something that prevents these things from happening in the schools themselves.
Oh yeah.
So I really feel that's
one more thing. I read that students are first. Every time a school shooting happens, people try. There's a huge debate, Facebook debates, or protests, and then the government kind of forgets about it until the next school shooting happens. So I don't know if the government is implementing action to prevent school shootings, but I know for a fact that a few months ago, a lot of teachers were actually advocating to have arms to protect the students. So then that became controversial. But recently, now the way the school is trying to combat, gun violence and how to combat ways to really protect students from being victims to gun violence is that they're actually teaching students how to act when, God forbid, if a shooter comes in the school. So we have, like natural disaster drills, we have fire drills where we practice to exit the school.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they have drills for, a theoretical school shooter. And when I was in high school a few years ago, they actually did that, where there's a special alarm that rings, and everyone in the school knows that, okay, that's the alarm if there's a shooter in the school. So then they tell us the steps that have to be taken to protect our own lives, where we close the door, we hide behind the windows, we hide behind the desks, we put the chair in front of our bodies, and it's a very, very troubling thing to know that the power of our own life is just in our hands now, because the government sometimes doesn't do enough to ensure the safety of students who just go to achieve a basic education. So honestly, just going to school means that we have to be ready for things like fires, natural disasters, and now even active shooters that try to come and God forbid shoot students in campus, and that's just really, really sad. And even in our university, we get threats sometimes, and sometimes they lock down certain areas. I remember once at the university, the place my car was parked, in the certain department my car was parked, they told no one to go there because a person with a gun was there. So they didn't let any student go there, and I couldn't go home. I had to wait in the classroom. A bunch of teachers canceled class because they didn't want students to be out of the opening, traveling throughout campus when there was a potential threat on campus. So it was a very scary experience. Some teachers were kind of shook by the experience. They didn't attend class, they canceled class. A lot of students didn't show up to class, and some of us were just trapped because we couldn't go home because our cars were in the place where the threat was located. But thankfully, they locked away the person, they found him and caught him. But it's just scary that we can't consider ourselves safe in just a public education system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're very right, because a couple of years ago, when I was in middle school, elementary school, these type of things were very, very uncommon. Like if you heard about a school shooting, it was like, oh my God. But now it's like there's one happening like every month, because did you know that this school shooting was either the 22nd or the 23rd school shooting only in 2018? Like imagine. We've only come, it's not even been like half the year yet, and this is how many school shootings that have occurred. So this really shows that it's a very serious issue that we really need to look at, because this is something that's not normal, and now it's considered not normal, but it's considered something that happens very frequently. And I really feel like Azra was mentioning about the drills and everything, we need to know how to protect ourselves in these kinds of situations, and we have to be prepared every single day in case, like God forbid, anything like this happens. Like schools should prepare the students on how to mentally be prepared for these kinds of things, so it doesn't come up as a shock, and everyone can be prepared and no lives can be taken, hopefully. So I really felt like this gun violence is something that's a very, very big controversial issue these days. But what everyone can do despite the controversy is kind of know how you can protect yourself and just be prepared for these kinds of things, and hopefully try to implement change. And like I mentioned, that this Santa Fe shooting was done by a student himself, so maybe influence the mindsets of the students so these types of things don't happen. So we really want to make society a better place for ourselves, and hopefully some change can come. So my last question, coming back to the topic of Ramadan, is how can we influence other outside people around us during this holy month, and kind of influence their lives and make a change?
Well, the best way to influence others is to be a great person ourselves. So if we can tell other people all we want, that lying is bad, cheating is bad, we should pray 5 times a day, read Quran, we can spread Islam as much as we want. But actions speak louder than words. So if we tell people to control their anger, but they see us, lashing out whenever we're angry, they're not going to follow what we told them. So by being good role models, that is the best and I think the only efficient way to, positively impact those around us. If we create this atmosphere of positivity, if we ourselves are like good examples, good role models of who we should be as good Muslims, as good human beings, if we have a strong moral compass, if we never lie, we never cheat, we practice in deeds like reading Quran and praying on Fazilat time, fasting in the month of Ramadan, refraining from listening to music or doing things that are detrimental to our faith or ourselves as Muslims, then other people will see that we're trying so hard to be the best version of ourselves, and they will in turn be influenced by our efforts to be a great person, and they will become motivated and motivated and I think motivated and influenced to become a great person as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. So continuing on to what Azra is saying, that we should really the best way, I also agree, is that the best way that we can influence the people around us is to be role models to them. When we go to school or around when we're around other people, to kind of show them that Muslims are good people, and do different things to kind of change that. So maybe perhaps you can be nice to people, and I'm not just saying just during the month of Ramadan you held the door open for someone, or you helped someone out just in what, Ramadan's over, I can't help you anymore. We don't want to do that. Ramadan's kind of like a beginning for us, where we can start doing these things, because again, like we mentioned before, that Ramadan is a time where each of our actions are sawab for those are actually multiplied by a lot. So it'd be a really great idea to kind of take action and be a role model for the people around us. And I feel like that's very, very important, considering, like I mentioned before, the negative views that people have about Muslims. We can really change that, and Ramadan's like a door that we can open to bring that change. So different ways that we can do this. We can, like I mentioned before, help someone out on their homework. If you really see that someone's in need of help them out. Maybe you can go to the mosque and you can maybe sponsor some food, bring some food anytime you want, And I really feel like those are ways that you can do great things in Ramadan. You can give to charity. These are things that we should really implement in this Ramadan. And Ramadan's actually going by so fast. Like today's the 4th of Ramadan, so we should really make the most out of our fasts and do what we can to improve the lives of people around us by demonstrating and becoming role models. So moving on along, we would like to end with kind of a treat, as in like we wanted to tell you guys about like a nice dessert that you can have maybe for Sehri or Iftar. And so the treat is basically, what you can do is you can take a bowl and you can put vanilla ice cream inside there. And this is something me and my brothers tend to do, and it's really, really delicious, trust me. And you know how when you guys wake up in the morning, this is like in my experience, you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you really don't feel like eating, right? Right, Azra? It's like you're not in the mood to eat, So this is something that'll definitely allow you to get up in the morning and eat. So basically you take a bowl and you can put some vanilla ice cream in there, and there's actually a company called Duncan Hines, and they have milk chocolate brownies that you can buy from your local superstore, and you can basically warm up the brownie and put it in the vanilla ice cream, and that's a really good way to kind of open your day. And if you feel like that's kind of a little unhealthy, you can always replace that brownie with something maybe like fruits or something that's a little more healthier. So like I was saying, that you should be watching the calories that you're eating in Ramadan, and like we mentioned before, a major problem that we have is we tend to overeat in Ramadan, because we're like, oh, we didn't eat the whole day, you know what, I'm gonna eat everything, So we want to probably try to limit that, and so that's like a great way to do that. So that's kind of like our treat for the day. So do you have any ideas, Azra, that from your own experience that really helped you?
Homemade treats. Yes. I actually don't make it myself, but my sister makes it. I know a lot of us are familiar with Rice Krispie treats.
Yeah.
And they have marshmallows. So if you're living in a country like America where not everything is halal, it becomes really sad because it's such a tasty treat, but we can only buy it from select stores that sell halal marshmallows. So what my sister does is she buys a big pack of marshmallows from a halal store, and then she buys Rice Krispie cereal, like the Frosted Krispies Rice Krispie cereal. And what she does is she melts the marshmallows in a pan with butter, and then she adds a bunch of cereal to it, and she mixes it up, and then she puts it in a dish. And then after a while, the marshmallows and everything, it hardens up, the butter hardens up, and then you have your own large tray of Rice Krispies treats, which you could cut up and you could eat. It probably lasts like the whole week or a few days if you eat a lot, but it's so great because instead of individually buying the halal packets, you could make it yourself in bulk at home. So it's just like a snack. It's a light snack you can eat whenever you want. So it's just a great way to kind of get your sweet tooth satisfied.
That's really nice, actually.
Yeah.
Like as a child, I'd always want to eat those Rice Krispie treats, and now I know I have an alternative for that. So that's really nice. So going back, just to kind of conclude everything, me and Azra, we hope you guys are having a great Ramadan, and we really hope that you guys as youth can make the most out of it. Like we said, use your body parts to your advantage. Use your hands, maybe open the door for someone, maybe help someone out, giving food to poor people. Use your mouth to read Quran, and maybe perhaps avoid things like television. What people tend to do is, when you can't eat, you do something to pass the time. People tend to watch TV, and actually I used to do this too, but things that we can, instead of doing this, we can always read Quran, and you maybe go out, help the poor. We can do something to maximize our benefits. So that's kind of what we intend to do in Ramadan, is maximize the benefits of what we can do and further the mission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember the value of sacrifice that I told you all about before, that think of Ramadan as, while you're fasting, as like a sacrifice you're making towards God. And it'll make you feel better, it'll help you to get on that path to become a better Muslim, and we're always asking ourselves, how do we become better Muslims? Well, this is what you can do in Ramadan to be a better Muslim. And remember to always try to avoid bad things that you do, and just kind of do more good things, take advantages of what you can. So Azra, do you want to add anything else to kind of...
No, I just want to close by saying that Ramadan is the only opportunity like this in the entire year, and it comes and goes like in a blink of an eye. We think it's just the 4th, we think we have the whole month left, but I promise you it's going to go by so fast, and then we're going to have to wait till the next year, and God forbid if there are a lot of people who don't get to see Ramadan next year. We have no guarantees if we're going to be alive till the next year, so please just take advantage of this month, because it comes once a year, and it's just a great opportunity to receive blessings and to become a better person.
Yeah, it's like she was saying, that it's like that one in the whole 365 days. It's like that 1 month where we can maximize our sawab for everything. And think of it as something for you to do this, to make sacrifices, and just to improve our inner selves, and become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because these things don't come around all the time. You don't know, like Azra said, if you're going to be alive next year. So think of it, and especially like on Laylatul Qadr, on these nights, we want to maximize whatever we can to get out of Ramadan. So I really feel like that's very important. And like Azra was saying, that Ramadan goes by very, very fast. So, make the most of every day, because trust me, that is a very true statement. And yeah, so that's how we would like to conclude for today. And we hope you benefited from this youth perspectives. Thank you.